Did you know that 59% of young adults set a New Year's resolution and only 9% actually stick to the changes? And honestly, for some reason, I'm more surprised by the 59% set a goal. I'm not that surprised that only 9% stick to it because people suck at changing. But imagine if you did reinvent yourself. Everyone around you taking notice that you've changed. You carry yourself infinitely higher in public because the ideal self and the current self are so close that there's no insecurity. And every goal you set is a realistic goal because you are the version of yourself required to reach it. And this reinvention is obviously super hard. That's why typically when people do have this crazy change, it's because they went through a breakup, a near-death experience, something drastic like that that kicks them into gear. But for most of us, that doesn't happen. We're in this limbo where we want better things. We want a better life for ourselves and for those around us, but things are okay. You don't have to change to survive or to even be comfortable in the modern day with technology and shelter. But the thing is that it's actually riskier to not change, to not reinvent yourself. Because while right now, it is the easier, it is the more comfortable option, eventually, due to the law of entropy and human nature, it's going to pull you further down. You're not going to stay right where you are. You're going to slowly spiral into hell, metaphorically. And for most of us, we try to change. We go a day, 2, 3, a week maybe, and we always revert back to the old self. You go back into your negative thought patterns, your bad habits, sleeping in, watching our boy Jordy clap MILFs. And this is because you are still your current self. Your mind is still fully programmed to operate as you are right now. You can't just say, all right, we're gonna do this now, and your brain, your systems are just gonna be like, okay. No, your subconscious systems are gonna be like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, bro. So fortunately, you do not need to go through a crazy breakup or a near-death experience or some kind of trauma to reinvent yourself, because I'm going to give you the 4 phases of self-reinvention, and you can follow them and do it and be cool. Or don't, and click off this video. You can go watch Mr. Beast and be a little retard. So for phase 1, we have awareness. So let's say you're in a forest and there's this dense ass fog. Would it make sense to try to navigate and walk straight through the forest in this dense fog? Well, no, because all your efforts will be wasted and you'll essentially be walking in circles, staying roughly right where you are. Despite your efforts, you will remain lost because you lack visual, physical clarity on your surroundings. Just like how you remain lost if you lack mental clarity. Before you can even begin reinventing yourself, you need this clarity, because navigating life with blurred goals, ideals, beliefs, identity is the perfect recipe to stay exactly where you are. Your mind is full of noise, and even if you are trying to make changes, most likely you're still just stuck in the very thought loops that you've been stuck in for the past week, month, and maybe even year. So to reinvent yourself, your first priority, phase 1, is raising your awareness through cultivating mental clarity. And the fastest way to gain clarity, to enter flow state, to detach from identifying with your thoughts, which is going to be huge in terms of reinventing yourself, is meditation. And for some reason, there's still this stigma that meditation is just for Buddhist monks, or if you're Christian or this religion or that, you can't do it because it's against your religion. Complete nonsense. Go ahead, bro, show me the Bible verse that says you can't meditate. When you meditate, it's not going to magically wipe your brain clean and you get this high level of clarity. You will get this high level of clarity, but thoughts still happen. But what you learn to do, literally the act of meditation, is they come by, you don't identify, you don't get stuck in these thought loops, you observe, and they pass. It's like if you were watching a river and something's floating down the river. It's in your perspective, it's in your awareness for a few seconds, and then it floats on by and it's gone. And you can check out my free 5-day guided meditation series in the description below. And if you pair meditation with destimulation, that's going to be the key to this clarity. Destimulate. You are so overly stimulated, bro. You're watching all the youth, you're watching the Mr. Beast videos, you're watching the porn, you're watching the TikToks, the reels. Even if you're ingesting self-development content, you may be watching too much self-development content. And once you get those started, to really dial it in, you need to write. Write down, why do you even need to reinvent yourself? You know, maybe you want to lose weight and it's for my health. Why is that? Well, I want to live longer. Why is that? I want to live longer for my kids. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I want to reinvent myself to make $1 million. Well, why is that? Because I could move here and do this and get this car. Well, why is that? Because I have financial freedom and control and autonomy over my life. There we go. Figure out that core why for why you're going to reinvent yourself. And then write, what are your current goals? You know, get a rough idea of your goals because obviously you need to reinvent yourself to reach them. What are they exactly? This is your lose 50 pounds, make 10K in a month, become confident and talk to 20 girls, getting a promotion at your job, fixing up mental health. All of these different things could be good goals. And then you have some kind of why, you have some kind of goals. Why aren't you there? You need to write down all of the shortcomings, all of the reasons why you, the current version of you, are not there. Can't make it happen. And there's clearly a lot of reasons, or pretty powerful reasons, otherwise you'd be there. And this is when it starts to get into the idea of acknowledging your shadow. The shadow is Carl Jung's idea of everything about ourselves that we deem as negative, that we want to suppress, that we don't want to acknowledge, but is still very much there. And often, when suppressed, the reason for our shortcomings. Bring all of these things into the light. It's on a piece of fucking paper, bro. It's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna bite. It's to bring it into your awareness so that you can gain clarity. And then you can figure out your purpose, or what I like to call it, a core goal. The reason I call it a core goal is because the idea of purpose makes it seem like this thing that's set in stone, that this is always gonna be my purpose. And when I achieve it, I don't know, just maintain it, versus core goal. Goal is something that changes over time. But regardless, this is that deep, burning desire in you. What you really want more than anything else in life. Not what mommy and daddy want you to do, not what society wants you to do. What do you actually want? And this is actually really hard. Something I see a lot in comments is that you guys struggle to find the core goal and the true purpose. And even me, from time to time, it will get blurred. You kind of lose focus on it, and then everything else starts to suffer after that. But when you gain this clarity, what happens is super interesting, because your core goal, or what you really want, your true purpose, is going to just surface up organically. You don't really have to think about it. It was always there. It's just with all this fog and all this noise, it wasn't allowed to float to the surface. And now it can. And once you get an idea of that, then you probably want to go back and change some of your goals, because some of the original goals may be too shallow or too off course compared to what you really want. So you'll make these deeper sub goals, if you will. And the final part of this phase is more for drive purposes. I don't want to use the term motivation, because motivation, willpower, these things do run out after a certain level of mental exertion. But often, in order to keep that burning desire inside of us burning, it's not just the mouse chasing the cheese in front of it. It's the mouse sprinting from the cat behind it that wants to fuck it up. So for your best chances of success, not only do we have this ideal core goal that we're running to, we need to figure out what we're running away from. You need to figure out your antithesis. And often this isn't worst case scenario if I become a crackhead on the street. What if you just stay exactly the way you are? Nothing changes whatsoever. And like I said, the law of entropy is just this slow cycle that is slowly spiraling down, and before you know it, you're in that metaphorical hell. If you can get a clear enough vision on that, often you can look to that for motivation to continue forward when the core goal gets blurry, or the cheese, if you're a mouse, the cheese at the end of the maze, don't be smelling that good. If you do all these things, you will have more than enough to take with you and begin phase 2. Generation. So begin generation, because we are generating your new identity that you're going to switch to. You have to answer this question first. Who is required to meet those goals, or your core goal? Because clearly it is not you. Who, in this dream scenario, has all these certain habits, traits, knowledge, skills to make that happen. And once you get that detailed vision of what will eventually be the higher version of yourself, then you need to take note of what is required, even of him. What actions, sacrifices, tough decisions, and commitments are required of this higher self in order to make those things happen. You need both. You need the who and the what. And with this who and what, you're going to take it together and you're going to create the most clear picture possible in your mind, in your writing, of this new identity, this higher self. How do they think? How do they act? What have they done? What are they going to do? And then you'll create this imagined scenario of this identity in full effect. Whatever your core goal is, the sub goals, they've been reached, they've been actualized, and you need to envision what that looks like. Who is that version of yourself that is celebrating this win, that got all these new habits, that made all these decisions, took all these actions? So for example, someone who wants to lose a lot of weight, their dream scenario may be they're 180 pounds, they're super healthy, they're running around with their kids, or they just finished a marathon or something like that. And in this vision, it's not, oh, it's the fat guy who lost a little weight. No, it's a vision of an athlete a man who identifies and carries out every single day the actions and the identity of an athlete. Most likely, if you're a well-rounded person into self-development, in this vision, there's going to be multiple things about you that's changed. It may be fitness and finances and mental health and attracting a wife or a girlfriend. And that's perfectly fine as long as you can visualize this singular avatar higher self that you're eventually going to change into. And craft this into this super specific scenario that you can go back to and visualize over and over and over. It's part of the process. And literally let the positive emotions, as if it happened, wash over you. This is actually super important for programming your subconscious. What this is doing is continuously introducing the new self, the reinvention, the new identity to the subconscious. And if you want to make any lifelong changes, you have to get the subconscious on board. Now here's the thing, your old identity is already in your subconscious mind. It's already in your mental programming. No shit. This is why you are the way that you are. And this identity has been firmly cemented through years and years of feedback loops. So how machine learning happens is a machine does something, takes an action to solve a problem, and then it gets hit with a yes or a no. If it gets hit with a yes, it saves exactly what it just did into its memory, its RAM, whatever. If it gets no, it deletes all of the memory of what just happened. Our brains are somewhat similar, but unfortunately, the yes and no's aren't actually for right and wrong, they're just for whatever is tied to our identity. So if you have a shit identity, your brain is going to save all of the actions, memories, processes that you've gone through that reinforce that, while deleting all of the ones that challenge it. Which is why, in order to allow the new identity to take over and knock that old identity out, we need to begin phase 3, bridging. So you need to take notice of all of the differences between your current self and this higher self, the ideal self. And if you did phase 1 and phase 2, this should be pretty easy. And what's going to happen is you are going to create the gap. This is the difference between the current and higher self. The difference in traits, habits, experiences, education, skills, mental health. And I know right now it may seem like, oh, well, you're just kind of giving me a to-do list that I have to do and become the new self. That's actually not the case, and I'll explain it more later. But using all this information and the gap, create a clear path to closing the gap. And the best way to create this path is to start with a long-term goal, even maybe your core goal, and then a midterm goal, maybe something that may take a couple of years, a couple months, and then a short-term goal may take a month, a couple weeks. And then from that short-term goal, it should be clear enough that you can break down each day what to do in order to reach just the short-term goal. What daily lever do you need to pull in order to move the needle? And just keep polishing this up until you have an exact roadmap to follow. But this just sounds like setting goals and making plans and reaching goals. How does this actually reinvent my identity, reprogram my mind? Well, that is because we finally get to enter phase 4, justification. So remember when I talked about feedback loops and how it is helping your current identity stay there? Well, now since we've been introducing this new identity into the mind, into the subconscious, we're going to flip the feedback loops on its head, make them positive, and provide cementing, I call it identity cementing, but justification for the new identity. And the old one is just going to kind of dwindle away and die. So to begin the process of identity cementing, you literally just have to start adhering to the roadmap that you've created and just kind of role-playing as them. How do they think? What habits do they have? What daily actions would they be doing? How would they dress? What kind of music would they listen to? And while you're doing this, you're also avoiding completing any feedback loops from the old identity. So obviously, self-improvement 101, you're taking a break from the bad habits. You're taking a break from the negative thoughts. And you also need to watch out because people are going to try to project your past identity onto you because it's not really their fault. It's just what they know. It's just what they've learned and it's what's in their subconscious when they see you and interact with you and think of you. But you must be careful because they may speak to you a certain way. They may see you a certain way that once it goes into your mind, it's going to try to shift you back to that old identity. And for a lot of people in your life, they're just going to be happy to see you changing. They're going to take note. They're going to root for you. But for some people, especially friends, they might not want you to change, especially friends that kind of suck, because if they kind of suck and you decided to stop sucking, they're going to feel bad for sucking. They're going to be like, no, come back into the suck with us. So it may mean in order to cement the new identity and get rid of the old one, you're going to have to cut out some people in your life. That's just part of it, sorry. And you will just be moving with intention. Every single action you take throughout your day will be with the higher self in mind. What would they do? And what happens is you don't actually have to go and reach all the goals to become your new identity, because over time, avoiding too many negative feedback loops, and doing all these new feedback loops that reinforce the identity that you're introducing into your mind with the visualizations and all the clarity and awareness we did in phase 1. It's going to shift you before you even reach any of these goals. Now, of course you want to and you're going to, but you don't have to in order to become that new version of yourself. Eventually what's going to happen is the subconscious is going to fully rid itself of the old identity, fully accept the new identity, and then all of these things that you've been kind of having to force yourself to do, that you kind of have to consciously think about all the time, what would my higher self do? It becomes organic and natural, and at times effortless. Which means not only these core goals you want to achieve are possible because you become the version of yourself required to make it possible, but they're going to become easier to achieve because you're that guy now. So a super simple example would be, let's say my goal is 1 million subscribers. If that is truly my desire and I have that core why to get there, and I go through all 4 phases, I will become and reinvent myself into a 1 million subscriber creator before I even hit 1 million subscribers. It may be 1, 2, 3 years in advance that I get to operate from this higher consciousness, from this higher self, and it's going to make getting there so much faster than if I was gritting tooth and nail, fighting against all of my mental wirings to get there. But I know what you're thinking. The biggest issue in the justification phase will be staying consistent with this. So I have this video right here which explains why people aren't consistent and how to fix it. Escape the cycle. You can click that video right here if you want to check that out. For those of you who want my exact every little bit of detail step by step to fully reprogram your mind and unlock elite levels of focus, authentic confidence, effortless discipline, and create a better life for yourself, attract the people and success you desire, then you can see if mental mastery is right for you by clicking the link in the description.